Mengli was already contemplating leaving Silva City for another Great Spirit arena. After all, without battles, there was no income, and both his team members and himself lived a luxurious life relying on the arena's prize money. Not wanting to be constrained, he hadn't joined any faction. However, just half an hour ago, Mengli suddenly received news from the Great Spirit Arena that a team wanted to challenge them, and it was even a level crossing challenge. This news delighted Mengli immensely. He wasn't a cautious person, and even a cautious spirit master wouldn't believe that a team at level 30 could defeat a team at level 40. If it weren't for the rule prohibiting spirit masters with spirit fighting badges from betting in the Great Spirit Arena, he would have placed a heavy bet on himself. Mengli had already gathered all his team members to rush to the Great Spirit Arena to earn their first income in half a month. Besides income, there was also a release of pent-up aggression. Killing, especially killing spirit masters, was a form of release and enjoyment for him and his rabid team members. If they hadn't always stayed within the territory of the Great Spirit Arena, they might have been killed countless times by stronger spirit masters. Meng Li's motto was growing through killing. At 30 years old, he even had a title in mind for himself as a future title Dolua, Fierce God. Of course, he had some self-awareness, knowing that becoming a title Dolua in this lifetime was almost impossible unless some special opportunity, like acquiring a powerful spirit bone or a 10,000-year spirit ring, changed his constitution. Silva's Great Spirit Arena, Central Main Spirit Fighting Area. Today was especially lively here. Although the news had only spread an hour ago, the level crossing challenge still attracted a lot of high-level spectators' curiosity, especially since the challenge was against the infamous Fierce God team. The betting area in the Great Spirit Arena had already opened. The spirit power levels of both sides were clear, and the odds were naturally very lopsided. The Fierce God team had odds of 1:1, while the Shrek 7 Devils team had odds as high as 110. Of course, the Great Spirit Arena never lost out. The losers had nothing to say, while the winners had to pay a 10% handling fee. This was why the Great Spirit Arena often organized exciting spirit fighting competitions. The higher the stakes, the greater their commission. This had long been the main source of income for any Great Spirit Arena on the continent, even more than ticket sales. Quickly, the odds changed again. Due to the massive bets on the Fierce God team, the odds for the Shrek team rose to 117, and they were still climbing. Betting areas were divided into two sides. The betting point for the Fierce God team was crowded, with spectators fearing they wouldn't be able to place their bets in time, while the Shrek 7 Devils betting point was deserted, except for a few speculative bettors. Just then, a sudden voice woke up the sleepy Shrek 7 Devils betting staff. "I'll bet 30,000 gold spirit coins on the Shrek 7 Devils." What did you say? How much? The staff was stunned and quickly asked again. Flender frowned. I said I'll bet 30,000 gold spirit coins on the Shrek 7 Devils. Is there a problem? The staff swallowed hard. Despite Silva's Great Spirit Arena being the largest in Silva's kingdom, a bet of 30,000 gold spirit coins was still rare. Naturally, Flender's 30,000 gold coins weren't all his own. They included private funds from the Shrek 7 Devils, the Master, and several other teachers. Many spectators betting on the Fierce God team couldn't help but laugh, looking at Flender like he was an idiot. Are you sure? The staff asked again. Flender's expression didn't change. I'm sure. Swipe the card. He took out several gold coin storage cards and placed his bet. At that moment, he was doing his best not to laugh. He didn't want to cause anyone to follow suit and lower the odds. Of course, his worry was unnecessary. Who would bet on the Shrek 7 Devils at this time? The Great Spirit Arena made money in many ways, but one thing everyone trusted was its fairness and justice. Otherwise, the arenas wouldn't have so many spectators. The level gap was enormous. On the Shrek 7 Devils side, only 4 members were above level 30, with 1 at level 38, and the rest at most level 33, with 3 even in the 20s. In contrast, The Fierce God team had all members above level 40 Silver Spirit Masters. Although their levels were not high among the 40s, averaging around level 43, they had a significant advantage over the Shrek 7 Devils. With an average advantage of 1.5 Spirit Rings and the Fierce God team's frenzied fighting style, who would bet on the Shrek 7 Devils? Flender had exploited a loophole in the Great Spirit Arena. Although participating Spirit Masters couldn't place bets directly, he could bet on behalf of the Shrek 7 Devils without being detected. As Flender prepared to leave, he saw a portly, merchant-like man rushing over, seemingly afraid of missing something. Handing over a gold spirit coin storage card, the man breathlessly said to the staff, "I want to bet 10,000 gold spirit coins on the Shrek 7 Devils." The staff thought to himself, "Just strange things happen every year, but this year is especially odd. Who would bet on the clearly losing side?" After Flender's precedent, the staff didn't ask further and quickly processed the bet. This time, Flender was puzzled. He asked the portly man, brother, did you see correctly? The Shrek 7 Devils have a huge gap in spirit power and rings compared to their opponents, yet you bet on them." The man chuckled, lowering his voice, "You don't know this, do you? I'm a merchant traveling between Barak Kingdom and Sylvis Kingdom. Recently, in Soto City of Barak Kingdom, I saw an extremely exciting team spirit fight, featuring the Shrek 7 Devils. Don't underestimate them because of their low spirit ranks. If you believe me, bet with me. It's a sure win." So that's it. Well, I trust you," Flender said, though inwardly amused. He didn't expect to find supporters of the little monsters even in the capital of Sylvis. However, this support seemed too blind. Without that special reason, no matter how outstanding the little monster spirits were, how could they possibly win against such a level difference? Despite the 40,000 gold spirit coins bet on the Shrek side, the odds didn't drop but continued to rise. To balance the odds, the arena had to lower the Fierce God team's odds to 1 minute and 0.7 seconds. Even so, the betting continued unabated. Flender confidently returned to the arena, where the Shrek 7 Devils were ready for their team spirit fight. Outside, the betting area stopped accepting bets. As time passed, the last team spirit fight of the day in Sylvis Great Spirit Arena, a level crossing challenge, was about to begin. The master habitually escorted the Shrek 7 Devils to the team entrance of the main spirit fighting area, giving final instructions. Remember, your opponents are brutal. Don't hold back. Defeat them as quickly as possible. Understand? If anything unexpected happens, jump off the stage immediately. It's better to admit defeat than to get hurt. Tang San nodded. Teacher, don't worry. We won't lose." Led by staff, the 7 of them strode towards the main spirit fighting platform. Since this wasn't an invitation from the arena, the master couldn't enter the arena to observe like in Soto Great Spirit Arena's final fight. He had to hurry back to join Flender and the others in the stands. The master's confidence in this challenge came from meticulous calculations. Tang San hadn't hidden any details about his hidden weapons from the master, who had already figured out how much threat each weapon posed to spirit masters of various levels. Therefore, the master believed there would be no issues unless something extremely unusual happened. Sometimes, strength didn't determine victory. The central main spirit fighting area of Sylvis Great Spirit Arena was no different from Soto Great Spirit Arena, just larger in scale, but the architectural style was identical. This showed that the Great Spirit Arena was a well-organized system. Perhaps due to the brutal nature of Tang San's opponents, the host announcing the team's entry was already hovering in mid-air. Unfortunately, this host wasn't as eye-catching as Soto Great Spirit Arena's Dowdu Beauty, but a handsome young man. The Shrek 7 Devils immediately saw their opponents. Although the battle had not yet begun, the fierce aura from the opponents already struck them head-on. Shrek 7 Devils did not know the exact number of members in the Fierce God team, but the 7 who appeared on the stage were clearly their strongest. These 7 were the same ones shown in the data they had received earlier. The captain, the Berserk Bear Soul Master Mengli. The other 6 were also all Battle Soul Masters. This fierce god team was a team entirely composed of strong attack-type Battle Soul Masters. This was the key reason why their attack power was so astonishing. As a strong attack-type team, their strengths and weaknesses were very apparent. The advantage was their tremendous instant burst attack power. As for the disadvantage, it was simpler. Without support type, control type, or agility type soul masters, their sustained combat ability was significantly lacking. The 7 members of the Fierce God team looked to be around 30 years old, each tall and muscular, with a bloodthirsty glint in their eyes. As they walked toward the center of the soul battle stage, they clenched their fists, making their bones emit a tooth-aching cracking sound. In terms of momentum alone, this team was the strongest the Shrek 7 Devils had encountered. The bloody aura emanating from the Fierce God team was far beyond what the Royal Battle team could compare to. This was the aura formed through constant slaughter. One could almost smell the blood on them just by looking at their bloodthirsty eyes. Due to their unique combination, the formation of the Fierce God team was also different from other teams. The 7 lined up in a dense formation, releasing their martial souls simultaneously as the announcer signaled readiness. Since they were all strong attack-type soul masters, their bodies swelled up as they released their beast martial souls. It was as if a giant bloody mouth capable of devouring everything had risen around them. The Fierce God team was not to be taken lightly, having caused so many soul masters to unite against them. Perhaps feeling the fierce aura of the Fierce God team, the audience hidden in the VIP stands began to cheer wildly, their shouts amplified into the arena by special loudspeakers. It ripped them apart. Kill them! The numerous shouts made the fierce aura of the Fierce God team even more arrogant. In this heated atmosphere, the audience did not notice that the Shrek 7 Devils, equipped with soul masters of all types, had also formed a peculiar lineup, mirroring the Fierce God team's single-line formation and releasing their martial souls simultaneously. Oscar lowered his voice and asked Dai Mubai, Boss Dai, if they really charge over, can you hold them off with Rongrong's soul skills assisting? Dai Mubai replied almost without hesitation, No, I can't. What? Don't you have any faith in Xiao San's gadgets? Xiao Wu said irritably. Oscar chuckled, It's not that I don't have faith. I'm just worried about the worst-case scenario. Think about it, I'm a great young man, handsome and charming, elegant and graceful. Enough. Everyone get ready. Tang San's voice interrupted Oscar in time. The Shrek 7 Devils simultaneously flipped their wrists, each taking out a seemingly unremarkable black box about a foot long from their soul guides or pockets. One end of the black box silently faced their opponents. Perhaps because of the Fierce God team's numerous sins, the shouts from around the arena incited their ferocity further. They roared to the sky, pounding their chests and showing off their soul rings to the audience. They did not notice the small movements of the Shrek 7 Devils. Weapons were not prohibited in the Grand Soul Arena, but typically, weapons were seen as burdensome for soul masters and were rarely used. Grandmaster, Flender, and others watched the changes outside from a VIP room. Flender's martial soul was the owl, and despite wearing glasses, he had the best vision. He noticed all the small movements as Tang San and the others took out the Zhuge Divine crossbows. Flender had some concerns about this soul battle and couldn't help asking the Grandmaster beside him, Xiao Gang, can Tang San's hidden weapons really kill these 40-level soul masters? These are all strong attack types, second only to defense types in defense capability. Their soul skills can't block Tang San's hidden weapons. The Grandmaster said calmly, they can block it. What did you say? Flender's eyes widened in surprise, looking at the Grandmaster. His usually calm demeanor broke with a hint of panic. The Grandmaster continued, that Zhuge Divine crossbow that Tang San gave me for self-defense, I studied its attack power carefully. Generally, the first 2 soul skills of a strong attack-type soul master cannot block its attack in terms of defense strength. However, as long as it is the 3rd soul skill or above, it can basically deflect the attack. If it's the fourth soul skill, there won't be any issue at all. Then why let them battle? Are you sending them to their deaths? Flender's voice raised in anger, and his soul power inadvertently fluctuated, making the entire room tremble. The Grandmaster looked at Flender and remained unfazed, using his unique voice. So what if they can block it? That doesn't affect Tang San and the others' victory. I initially thought they might need all their hidden weapons to win. Now it seems unnecessary. Tang San told me that hidden weapons emphasize the hidden aspect. Do you think their opponents know the power of the hidden weapons in their hands? If it were you, would you use a soul skill that consumes a lot of soul power right away against clearly weaker opponents? Of course, this combat style is not replicable. But don't forget, this is the first time Tang San's hidden weapons appear in the Grand Soul Arena. Without using their third or fourth soul skills, nobody below 50 level soul power can withstand the Zhuge Divine Crossbow. Even those above 50 level might suffer if they are careless. Do you think it's easy to kill a human-faced demon spider? Listening to the Grandmaster, Flender's emotions gradually calmed, but his heart remained tense. At this moment, the host, flying in midair, shouted, "Je Team Battle Soul, Shrek 7 Devils vs Fierce God Team, Soul Battle Start." Almost simultaneously with the last word from the host, someone from both sides shouted. From the Fierce God Team, it was the captain, the Berserk Bear Soul Master Mengli, who roared, "Rip them apart." On the Shrek 7 Devils side, Tang San's shout was simpler, "Release." The previously raised black boxes, not reflecting under the bright lights of the Grand Soul Arena, faced their opponents silently. As the Fierce God Team charged, all their members activated their first soul skills, rushing forward like wolves and tigers. Their thunderous momentum resembled a stampede. At that moment, all members of the Fierce God Team heard a strange sound, like the clang of metal colliding, accompanied by a buzzing, as if a beehive had been disturbed. Buzz! 7 Zhuge Divine crossbows simultaneously emitted their unique roar. Each Zhuge Divine crossbow had been loaded with bolts before the battle. A total of 112 bolts pierced the air, casting large shadows like a swarm of bees. The Fierce God Team members, being soul masters above 40 level, could see the shadows coming at them. But how could they imagine these were not soul skills? What is the Mad Dog battle tactic? It means launching desperate attacks regardless of the enemy's strength. Today's Fierce God Team was no different. They did not pause due to the attack but sped up, raising their arms to protect their heads and chests, charging forward. Close combat was their specialty. Thud 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 thud. Accompanied by a series of strange sounds, the wildly cheering audience seemed to have their throats cut simultaneously. The entire arena fell silent in an instant. In that terrifying silence, large blood mists blossomed like fireworks on the main soul battle stage. The Fierce God Team members continued to rush forward several meters before their momentum slowed. The suddenness was so swift they couldn't react. Why did it suddenly get cold? Mengli found it odd. His body seemed unresponsive. This was his last conscious thought in this world. Clang 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 clang. A series of dense explosive sounds echoed behind the Fierce God Team. On the wall of the main soul battle stage, pitch-black bolts were densely nailed. The Fierce God Team members finally halted. The blood mist that formed the fireworks had sprayed from their bodies. Not only were the audience stunned, but even the Shrek 7 Devils were in a daze. Despite having placed great hopes on the Zhuge Divine crossbow, when the moment truly arrived, they were stunned. Only Tang San had anticipated this scene, but even he couldn't help but twitch slightly at the corner of his eye. Meng Li's eyes, initially gleaming with vicious intent, now stared blankly ahead, filled with shock and despair. His towering and strong body crashed to the ground as if a mountain had collapsed. The 7 members of the Fierce God Team were simultaneously brought down by their own momentum as they charged forward. Blood gushed from their bodies, pierced by the Zhuge Divine crossbow, resembling sieves. The blood flowed like red earthworms, quickly spreading across the Do-Soul stage, dyeing a large area of the central stage red in the blink of an eye. It was a complete and utter instant kill. The Fierce God team, with a strength level of 40, didn't even have a chance to make a move. At this moment, the minds of all the spectators were almost blank. Nobody knew what had happened, and hardly anyone saw how the Shrek 7 Devils made their move. Such a brief team battle was unprecedented in the history of the Great Do-Soul Arena. Although the battle was short, the impact it left on the audience was as profound as any thrilling battle. In the VIP room, Flender's eyes were wide open in astonishment, while the Grandmaster slowly closed his eyes and said calmly, Let's go. This is when they need us the most." With that, he led the way out, clearly having anticipated the events. Zhu Zhuqing was the first among the Shrek 7 Devils, aside from Tang San, to regain her senses. Without hesitation, she turned and ran towards the entrance of the Do-Soul stage, covering her mouth with one hand. Ning Rongrong was the second to run out, followed closely by Oscar and Ma Hongjun. Only Dai Mubai, Tang San, and Xiao Wu remained on the stage. "I'll check on Zhu Qing," Dai Mubai said, his voice sounding strange. Tang San nodded, and Dai Mubai immediately turned and left. Looking at the floating host, who was still stunned, Tang San lowered his voice as much as possible. Can you announce the result of this battle?" The host woke up from his daze, realizing that he had wet himself in fear. His previously clear voice became hoarse. The team battle soul fight, Shrek 7 Devils versus the Fierce God team. The Fierce God team is annihilated. The Shrek 7 Devils win. Satisfied with the answer, Tang San expressionlessly took Xiao Wu's hand and walked towards the entrance of the Do-Soul stage. The audience woke up to the host's announcement, and the entire main Do-Soul arena erupted. Various voices of doubt, sighs, and astonishment rose and fell. However, all this had nothing to do with the Shrek 7 Devils anymore. For them, the battle was over. When Tang San led Xiao Wu backstage, he found that apart from Dai Mubai, the other four were still vomiting. Xiao Wu, beside Tang San, trembled and quickly removed her mask to join the others. Only Tang San and Dai Mubai managed to hold on, though Dai Mubai's face was pale and his spirit visibly disturbed. Tang San was slightly better off, having lived for nearly 40 years across 2 worlds, making his mind more resilient. Dai Mubai, the oldest among them, was only 15. Though strong and tough, he was still an ordinary person, and this was his first time killing someone. Instantly killing 7 opponents, the sight of blood spraying, the enemy's bulging eyes, and their twisted expressions at the moment of death were deeply etched in the minds of the Shrek 7 Devils. It was a feeling that nothing else could replace. Tang San, we killed people, didn't we?" Dai Mubai said with difficulty. Tang San nodded. "Yes, we killed people. The teacher said they were brutal and deserved to die." Ning Rongrong, her face pale, raised her head and forced herself to speak. But they were still 7 living beings. One moment they were fierce, and the next they were corpses. She said before vomiting again. "And we really killed people," Josker said, patting his chest and gasping for breath. As Soul Masters, killing is something you'll eventually face. This is a hurdle you must overcome. It's better to face it early than to vomit on a potential battlefield. Otherwise, you might end up like those 7, becoming corpses, the Grandmaster said as he approached, his face calm and his voice steady, though it sounded somewhat harsh to the Shrek 7 Devils. Any successful and powerful Soul Master has walked over the blood of their enemies. Haven't you killed before? Where do you think your soul rings come from? Soul beasts are also lives, no different from humans in terms of life itself. Why didn't you feel this way when hunting soul beasts? This hurdle, no one can help you through it. You have to rely on your willpower. If you feel nauseous, vomit. Get used to it, and it will get better. But if you don't want to be the center of attention, put away your masks and follow us out of here. When the Shrek 7 devils returned to the hotel, even Tang San felt extremely tired, more so than during their devil training. It wasn't physical fatigue, but mental exhaustion. Tang San had also killed for the first time. Despite his strong will, the dying look in Meng Li's eyes lingered in his mind. As Ning Rongrong said, even knowing the opponent deserved to die, they were still once living beings. The Grandmaster and other teachers gathered in the room. Flender was particularly excited, having earned a substantial amount with odds of 1 to 20. The money was already collected. Several factions, including the Great Do Sol Arena, had invited the Shrek 7 devils, but Flender had refused them all. 4 other Soul Masters participating in the Do Sol battles, the death of the Fierce God team was satisfying. Many even thought it was a setup by teams seeking revenge against them. The Zhuge Divine Crossbow was powerful, but had clear drawbacks. As the Grandmaster mentioned, it could penetrate defenses below the 2nd soul skill, but was ineffective against the 3rd soul skill and above. Its range was limited, weakening beyond 50 meters, unlike arrows. Its main advantage was surprise. Without that, it was merely a powerful weapon. A Grandmaster, did you plan to kill the Fierce God team all along? Otherwise, you wouldn't have chosen such a notorious opponent, Zhao Wuji asked while sharing the spoils with Flender. The Grandmaster nodded. Yes, it was another form of test or training for them. Any Soul Master over level 50 likely has killed. It's better for them to experience this with us around. At least they'll be somewhat prepared for similar future events. Zhao Wuji sighed. But they're still young. Won't this be too much for them? The Grandmaster smiled lightly. These children are smart. They won't dwell on it. Flender, if you're done counting the money, go comfort them. I've played the bad guy long enough, it's your turn to be the good guy. Flender chuckled. I've always been a positive figure to them. Being the good guy suits me. Wuji, don't worry. I agree with the Grandmaster. I vomited a lot the first time I killed. It's something everyone goes through. Let them experience it early. I'll go talk to them. For the Shrek 7 devils, it was a sleepless night. The next morning, before dawn, they quietly left Silva City, heading towards their destination, the capital of the Heaven Do Empire. The Shrek 7 devils were still pale, especially Zhu Zhuqing and Ning Rongrong, who had vomited the most. A night's time was not enough for complete recovery. However, Flender's guidance helped them reluctantly accept the reality. His main point was simple: killing a bad person saves countless good people. If bad people aren't killed, more will die. Thus, they weren't killing, they were saving. This mindset made it somewhat easier for the Shrek 7 devils to accept, though fully adapting to the feeling of killing would require much more experience.